Hello, everyone. Welcome. Another Sunday and another edition of Your American Experiment, brought to you by the Youth Institute and Metagenics with the one and only Dr. Greg Brannon. Dr. Brannon, it's good to see you.
Thank you, buddy.
Hey, I want to talk about something. I think it is inside baseball, but it's important inside baseball because we are already talking about another presidential election. We have Tom Tillis as a senator that nobody seems to like, but no one seems to be running against him. Yet it always seems the parties, whether it be Democrat or Republican, get to choose who they want to represent their district in Washington. Not you, not me, not the people. The party does. You ran. You know better than anybody how this system works. Would you mind walking us through it? I mean, be honest. Be very honest about how this game is actually played.
Names will be discussed.
All right, let's do this. Now, you ran against Tom Tillis, and you were winning. You were winning in all the straw polls. In fact, you had a lot of momentum going. But Tom Tillis was the candidate the Republican Party picked.
Yes.
And I mean that, picked.
Yes.
The people wanted you early on.
Well,
What happened?
Couple things. This is interesting. And this is not, oh, Greg, you're whining, you lost. Oh,
No. This is important.
No, I want to know the details of why we ran. I was naive enough to believe life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. I was.
You thought the elections actually counted.
I did, and I believed. You know, my wife and I, we said we'll pledge our life, our fortune, our honor, and we lost everything except our honor, and that's been destroyed by other people. But I know it's true, so that's okay. What we want to talk about, Bill, is this. Right now, we have Tom Tillis, the second most hated senator in the United States, and da. Let's do some facts right here. And on the sad part of that same poll, Lindsey Graham's the most favored.
Yeah.
Okay, that just tells you how far we've been. That this,
Yes.
neocon, ultra-Republican, progressive is the most favored. Now,
Right.
back to Tom Tillis, is that when you look at the data and the facts, 93% of incumbents win their race.
How can you possibly, why even bother running?
That's why.
And how is that even possible? Especially if you have a Tom Tillis in this case, who's not very popular.
Yeah, that's it, because our standards are why, how do you get this? Go over stuff. He came from, from the Maryland area, came down here, worked, I think, for IBM Consultants. So obviously he was brought here. He was a park and recs guy, and within 4 years, he was Speaker of the House.
Yes.
So he's Speaker of the House in North Carolina, and all known solar lobbyist. The chamber liked his, he was for amnesty. The toll roads are crucial, Bill. They are part of this whole North American Transit Society that actually goes from Mexico to Canada. And actually, the toll road company is a Spanish company.
Yes.
So you saw McCrory and Tom support these things.
Yes.
So it actually enriched his pockets somehow. So you look at this stuff. But I want to go through my whole process. So we had Senator Hagan, who believed in Obamacare, who believed in amnesty, who believed in open borders, who believed in the whole idea of green energy, man-formed climate change, all the stuff.
Right.
And I showed in our campaign, so did Tom Tillis.
Yes.
Okay, now, so that was the Tea Party movement. We had a group called Founders Truth. We started in October of 2009. And I just went around the state talking about liberty and freedom. I spent about 10, 12 years studying the Constitution, the founding documents, the Declaration, the Articles of Confederation, read stuff from Montesquieu, from Vattel. I just wanted, I spent 15 years after high school preparing to be a surgeon. I spent 8, 10 years studying. I was preparing for this race. And so I thought, simple, the Ron Pauls of the world, the Rand Pauls of the world, the Mike Lees, that's our future. We had the first off, you had Senator Lee and you had Senator Paul win in 2010, the first real Tea Party movement come together. And understand the Tea Party, they can say all they want to do, wacko garbage. All the Tea Party was, are you taxed enough? And Ron Paul used that phrase before the guy from CNBC used it, about 4 or 5 years beforehand. Because understand something, the revolution that our founders fought was because we were being taxed too high.
Right.
The tax rate was 1%.
Right.
So I want that to seek in. This whole idea is a philosophical debate of what your life is, what your liberty is, and what your property is.
Okay. Now, I want folks to focus in on this because I think it's really, really important. I remember the Tea Party. I spoke at a lot of their events.
Oh, yes,
there was a lot.
We became friends there.
That's yes, and there was a lot of momentum. I mean, and a lot of everyday North Carolinians came out, and this was happening all over America. So there was momentum behind it. Now here you come along, and you are exactly what the Tea Party said they stood for.
Mr. Beck called me the best candidate of all time.
Right? He did. He did. And I agree with him. And here we have Tom Tillis. Now, that was, if you didn't want Tom Tillis, that was the time to beat Tom Tillis. Now, we're going to get to how the system's rigged in a moment. But what happened with the Tea Parties? Were they corrupted? Did they lose their way? Was it, again, the people in charge of kind of...
I'm going to walk you through. I'm going to walk you through the whole thing, because this is really crucial. Either they were corrupt from the beginning or became corrupt. And you could see by their actions. And I'm going to walk you through. When I was interviewed by Club for Growth, when I was interviewed by FreedomWorks, when I was interviewed by these groups, I interviewed them as well. This is no game for me. So we did this kind of stuff. We went around, started speaking, right? And then I was a nobody North Carolinian OBGYN doctor, just traveling the state speaking. It got bigger and it got bigger. Yes. We started moving, some things got bigger. And then we got to positions of actually meeting some people. So this is how it all worked. Is there are good people in DC, and I'm not. There are good people, or we'd be actually running that wall faster than we are now. We're still going to the wall. Where the train's going at it, but there are times it slows down based upon who's in DC or in Raleigh, right?
Right.
So we go through this process. Now, what interesting was this is we announced February of 13, and June of 13 was the Republican convention, North Carolina Republican Convention in Charlotte.
Yes.
And they gave me a time to speak at the convention because I was leading the poll. That was a Friday. Thursday, Walter Jones, the late Walter Jones, myself, and Tom Tillis were given a speech in Walter's district. And I spoke first. First, Walter spoke, and then he introduced me and said, he gave glowing words, and he was honest, Greg. We were talking. He wants me to win, but I can't endorse now. Just Walter was as honest as days long.
He was
We had a great conversation.
He really was.
And then Tom and I spoke, and then Tom speaks. Tom gets up and looks over at me and says, "I can't thank you enough for bringing the Constitution to our discussion." And then he quotes John Locke completely out of context.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then he does a
That's
speech.
Tom.
And now, because the plan was he was going to announce it on Saturday, okay, in Charlotte. But here's what happened was
he's going to announce
he's going to run for senator.
Right.
Now here's what happened at the convention. So he announced that Thursday night, not this week, later that night he announced. So Friday at 2:00, I got 2-minute allotted time to speak.
All right.
It says in the program, the program printed in weeks in advance, it says Greg Brannon, a candidate for U.S. Senate, speaks at 2:00. Flip the page over. 1:00. The honorable Senator Speaker, our honorable Speaker of the House, our candidate for U.S. Senate.
Are you kidding me?
Thomas something
Are you
Tillis.
kidding me?
No, sir.
What a
It's
bunch
exactly what it said.
What a bunch of BS. So this was all predestined.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, essentially, up to those polls, and not straw polls. These are polls done by PPP, by all these things. I'm beating Hagan more than he's beating
Yes.
Hagan.
Oh, I remember.
7, 8
Absolutely.
points, and we are we're ahead of Tom on most stuff. And Tom is, the Speaker of the House. But people think,
But come on, doctor. Come on. We go to the polls. We vote. It's the people out there. They make up their own mind. They choose the candidate.
Well,
You're suggesting that maybe the party actually chooses the individual who will be the next senator.
Well, Bill, that's what happened. So I get 2-minute speech.
Okay.
Please
yes, sorry.
YouTube the speech. Please YouTube it. To my right was the indicted Robin Hayes. To my left is I don't know who he was. I went about 11 minutes.
Right.
Halfway through it, Robin gets up and hands me a shirt. Okay, whatever. I keep talking.
Shirt?
And I'm having, and guys, I talk like this. I'm not articulate, but I'm getting standing ovations. I'm talking about life, liberty, what the truth Republican Party is supposed to stand for, going crazy. And at the end of it, I said, we're going to have an ice cream social in my house, in our suite. My wife and I are going to have an ice cream social. We invite you to come meet us. There's the same time Rove was having a fundraiser for Tom. I think they got
the Carl Rove.
Yeah, the Carl Rove. Yeah, Carl Rove did a talk after that during the convention, how he must cross the aisle. Exactly, Tom.
Yeah.
Complete progressives, right?
Yeah, right.
So during that time, Tom had about 100 people for his fundraiser. We had about 800 show up.
Wow.
Okay.
See, you touched something that I think is inside all of us.
Yeah.
So here you are. You're on the roll. Tea Party's getting behind you, right?
Beautiful. And Robin Hayes came to me after my talk, before the Ice Cream Social, said, I've been looking for that shirt to give it for years to somebody. It's a shirt that says, the joke is over. We want our Constitution back. Funny for the man.
Are you kidding me? Robin Hayes did that?
That was the shirt he gave me. Funny for the man who's
Now, Robin Hayes, of course, for people who don't know, he was the chair of the North Carolina Republican Party.
right. And at that time,
How did you lose this? You had Robin Hayes, the chair of the Republican Party, you had the Tea Parties. Everybody was behind you. How could you possibly?
Again, he gives me the shirt. That's all he does. I've been waiting for years. On Monday, he asks Pastor Harris to run in the election.
Why would he do that?
Why would he do that?
He found that. He gave the man the shirt.
We know it's status operation procedure is you divide the anti-establishment vote. That's all you do. But the Republicans were interested. When Tom was head the Speaker of the House, what they did was to win the primary was 50% plus one.
Right.
They knew Tom was weak. They passed the rule to make it 40% plus
the
one.
Republicans passed the rule to lower it.
To lower it. Oh, by the way, the same Republicans pass it now, this election cycle. We'll go over this in a moment. Now it's 30% plus one.
30%.
So
a dead incumbent could win that. Are you kidding me?
So that's what happens. And then they put a guy in the race named Brannon, and then we had this other people get in. They put a talk show host in. It was so cool. Was they do all this stuff to divide. And the thing was, all these people, how conservative. All I said was, I'm constitutional. Yeah. It was funny was, I'm conservative. And all these debates we had across the area, Tom would never show up at the small debates because he's Tom. And one of them, Scott, somebody, the one who was in Winston-Salem, he goes, before the debate, you know what, guys? All of you but one should back out. It should be a one race against Tom. Well, I was winning everybody. Well, I was backing out. I'm kicking all their rear ends. So, and I think Bill Flynn, his name was, he's a talk show.
I do remember him. Yes,
so during the campaign, later on, we had a debate with constitutional scholar, great guy to Arizona, asked us constitutional questions.
Oh, man.
This is the question where Mark Meadows was asked a question in the Constitution. Can you name one function in Article 1, Section 8? And he pulls out, I don't know it, but I will. And now he's our congressman, okay? So it's funny watching.
Don't know it, but I will.
But I will. So before, it was the guys running for Congress were up first. The ones running for Senate was next. You could have saw Grant and Harris on the phones looking up things up. It was hilarious. But during that one, we just crushed it, and Bill Flynn quit after that. But the bottom line was this, Bill. It was they want to have the conservatives divide the vote, the anti-establishment vote, right? But I was at the debates, and they would say, okay, how do you feel about Obamacare? Every one of them, Grant, Harris, every one of them, there are some good points to Obamacare, every one of them. And you're like, dudes, Article 1, Section 8, where's healthcare at that level? See, they're hypocrites. All we're fighting about is what's progressive or what's less bad's good. So that was the whole process. But during that time, there were 19 straw polls, and we won 17 of them. And we were crushing him. At the end of the day, Tom got 44%. I think I got 30%, and Harris got 12%. And if I was called an abortionist, I was called the worst.
You an abortionist?
Yeah, I'm the pro-life OBGYN who was if the woman's right to know act when Supreme Court, I'm the expert witness on that. It was.
Well, they went after you big time. They wanted to personally.
They
destroy
were following my daughters on Facebook. It's insanity what it was.
The Republican.
I didn't.
You're talking the Republican Party.
We're talking Republican Party.
Right.
And over and over. So now we're doing this process. So what happened was that was June. So July was the big day. July was the big day, Bill. I got invited by Eric Erickson to speak at Red State.
Yeah.
And that final night, Nikki Haley spoke. The final day, Nikki Haley and Ted Cruz spoke, and I got to close. And please Google that. It was 27 minutes that changed my world. Yeah. After that, I'm on Glenn Beck. I'm meeting Senator Lee, Senator Paul. They're endorsing us. It was my night and day. Right. But then I meet some senators you think about that said, Greg, you can't say one senator who's considered the constitutional, one of them said, Greg, you can't say Social Security, Medicare are unconstitutional. I go, but they are, because you never win. And we had this discussion before. Sure. That's what Eisenhower said too. So the question is I started finding, so when I interviewed with Club of Growth, I studied Austrian economics for 8 years. I studied tariffs. I studied all these kind of aspects of this. And I love those guys. They what they stand for, but then they endorse people down the line that don't meet what they say they stand for.
Well, and let's talk a little bit about that, because ultimately, I'm not part of the inner circle of people who get to decide, I guess, who will be my next senator. There are a lot of people who still go to the polls legitimately believing that their vote actually does count. What I'm hearing tonight is that it really doesn't, that it's all predetermined. Now, you're in a position to win this, really win this. There are lots of things that are involved in this, right? Money, but the politics behind it. You have Robin Hayes, the chairman, the party itself, and what they do They've chosen their candidate. It was in the brochure or the
Yes.
program, so you know.
Yep.
So they put in other candidates. They recruited other candidates to split the vote and lowered the threshold so Tom Tillis could win.
Well, the biggest
The
thing,
Republican Party did this.
yeah, with 2 weeks to go, we're ahead of Tom, and he has to debate me live. We have to debate live at Davidson. In his hometown, we go to Davidson. They put Hayes in, who was it? Grant, or the woman was there. She was like polling 2%, 3%.
Right.
At that time, I think Mark was polling like 6%. I'm polling like 36, 37%, and Tom's like 31%.
Right.
So why wasn't it one-on-one? Why wasn't it a one-on-one race?
Well, clearly, you know why.
Yeah, they could not have that. And then you have these bozos asking the questions that don't know nothing about the Constitution, and then Tom had some guy come up and say, so about a Second Amendment question. That's the classical Tom Tillis. The federal government needs practical gun laws. And that day, the NRA endorsed him over me. Now, he had 55.
Now, how is that possible? So see, I'm trying to wrap my head around it because the NRA would never or should never endorse a candidate that would say something like that. But then again, I've learned more about the NRA and who they really are.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like FreedomWorks. When I interviewed with FreedomWorks, it was founded by Matt Kibbe, who's one of the best guys I ever met in the campaign, right. Still a friend of mine, and Ron Paul. Then it passed it, but their actual was FreedomWorks. That was the whole idea of it. Mm-hmm. So I interviewed with one of the guys up there, and we're talking, and I was honest. I said, he interviewed me. He looked at me like he wasn't even looking at my face, looking around. And then I said, I'm going to just be the full Greg. And I just hammered him. I asked him questions for 90 minutes. And I said, at the end of the day, you don't endorse me, you're hypocrites. Right. And they endorsed. Then Matt got involved. Matt endorsed me. And then Matt left after my election. Matt left. I don't know what happened there. But the bottom line is they want to seem like, ooh, they love the Constitution. Ooh, they love liberty. Then after that, they endorsed Tom, okay? Because he's better than Hagen. This is hypocrisy. There is nobody out there.
There really is very little difference between a Tom Tillis and a Hagen. I get it. There's
one is a skirt.
Yeah, well, yes. yes. So the Tea Party, I remember that movement. How did they treat you?
Okay, beautiful, Bill. So January of 12, I had in my office, we had about 60, 70 Tea Party leaders in the room.
Okay. They
came in my office. Some of them are still friends today. Some are not. And we saw, I go, so what is our movement? What's our plan going to be? And it was anybody but Obama. That was Mitt Romney, the great progressive, was running. I said, guys, thank you for telling me the truth. Now I know you're the enemy as well.
Right.
Because I had one guy there, his name was called Constitution. I go, have you read the Constitution? Never. Dudes, you say these things. You go put this persona out there. But the bottom line is all we are is now a bunch of rule of men again. No, the rule of law is based on something very important, God's natural law. So if we don't use the Constitution, more important than the Constitution, this is very important to me, God's natural law, and then it's articulated in a secular document called the Declaration. If we don't have a government based upon that, that's why I know I was mocked by all these people when I talk to the news, and I know that. Paragraph 2 says exactly what a legitimate government is. It protects bills, marries, inalienable rights. The individual over the collective. That's all my debate was. And the progressive movement, which is now what America has become, is always the collective over the individual, the greater good. In fact, Harrison, he announced, I'm ready for the greater good. That saddened me because a pastor understands that Christ came down to save each individual at a time.
Right.
So the sad part about it is it's an individual free to succeed, to fail, to help. That's the American experiment, Bill. So when I met with these hypocrites, Bill, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. It's like,
the everyday people don't know this. The people that stood out there on the Capitol steps and believed in their heart all the things that you speak of, and so many have, and yet the leaders of these particular Tea Parties didn't even read the Constitution.
No, Bill, that's
and didn't really even have an understanding. I mean, is it ignorance? Is it a power thing? Are they making money? How is that possible? Help me understand that.
I met, and I don't want to use his name because it was a private meeting, a very, very high guy up on Gingrich's team. Very nice. This was in 2010. And he heard about me, this doctor that knows, let's come up there. We had an hour meeting, and I spoke about the Constitution. I spoke about da-da-da. And he says, you're insane. He says, we don't want the Constitution. We just want to be in power. And then he said,
so he's honest.
Yeah. And then I stopped and I said, sir, I bowed my knee once. Nobody on earth. I'm not bowing again. And I think you're wrong, sir. I think you're wrong. I think this movement this time is real. I think it's real. And I believe it's going to happen because I think we're done accepting the fake. He goes, Greg, all you're going to do is motivate people. Then they're going to vote for the Republican guys we want. Boy, was he right.
Yeah.
Because we motivated people to go vote again.
But
and
they
voted
for the one that they.
And look at Tom. Tom did not ever win an election over 50%.
Right.
He beat me with 44%. Because if we both were under 40, we're having a one-on-one race. Everybody else is gone.
Right.
We spent $1.2 million. He spent 55, and he beat us by 4 points in a runoff.
Right.
Then you have when against Hagan, he got like 46%. If it wasn't for the Libertarian in the race, he probably would have lost.
Right. I mean, now here we are. It's 2019, and the Daily Haymaker's talking about Tom Tillis and being an unpopular candidate, and there's nobody at this point.
Credible opponent. That drives me nuts.
What does that mean?
See, because I wasn't credible until I was on TV, got endorsed by all these great senators. But why does that make it credible? Why can't some homemaking mom who studies her rear end off, why can't she get out there? Why can't some entrepreneurs built a business, this man or woman built, why can't they?
What makes it credible? How do you define credible?
Money. And we did this on your show about 6-7 years ago. Princeton and Stanford did studies showing lobbyist money's influence versus the voters' influence. And there's none. There's none in the voters. Right. And I know we're hammering the Republican primary because I was not in the Democratic Party. But the Democrats are even worse. The superdelegates.
Yes.
I mean, Bernie couldn't have won if he had everybody vote for him because the superdelegates get like 1 to 1,000 votes. It's ridiculous. They want to do, Mark Twain said, if voting made a difference, they would not allow us to do it.
That's right. It's a beautiful scam because they even allow us to pay for it. And we go out and we do this. See, I don't believe most people really, truly understand it. It's certainly not something that talks about. What about the money? I mean, all candidates need to raise money. You need money to buy ads. Who are these people that contribute money, and why are they just part of the machine?
When we come after the break, I want to talk what I was told about raising money. And remember who that is. That's Joe Schmo, you and I. And it actually funds the consultants, the team. It's a machine, Bill.
So come back and being a consultant. I'll tell you that.
We'll talk about that after the break.
All right. Well, Dr. Brannon, I mean,
I
appreciate you doing this.
Am I hurt my chances to run again?
Oh, hell no. I'd still vote for you today. It's too bad. North Carolina, you had a shot. You had a shot. Who knows? Who knows down the road? We'll keep hoping he runs. Your American Experiment is, in fact, brought to you by Metagenics, which is it's wonderful stuff. It's all natural stuff. And, everything that goes in your body either helps or hurts. Metagenics happens to help.
Yeah, Bill, vitamins are not optionals. Your body needs vitamins as cofactors to make metabolism work. And that sounds nerdy, but to go from A to C, you need B. And that's how this works. And you want the most purest forms. In space, three-dimensional matters. Synthetic vitamins are not the same structure as actually what the bioidentical body needs. Metagenics has been out in the mid-'80s. Please look at their studies, look at their standards. I don't want to go through all the detail, but they have such a phenomenal website. They have great written literature. They have great articles I give to my patients on how the metabolism of, say, estrogen works or the metabolism of vitamin D works. The literature is phenomenal. I use it. It's my family. It's in my business. Please go to metagenics.com. And the word is Carrie, BHRT is the actual code.
Beautiful. And I know this about Dr. Greg Brannon. If you don't, you soon will. He researches everything to death. So take him at his word. All right, we'll come back with Your American Experiment. You have a moment to go call your friends and tell them to tune in. We'll see you in a minute. Hey, everybody, we're back. Sometimes we should air what happens during the break, but we can't do that. But a lot of passion in the show today. We're visiting with Dr. Greg Brannon. Your American Experiment is brought to you by the Youth Institute and Metagenics. You can go to the websites and find out more information. We'll tell you a little more in just a couple of minutes. I will also say, to clarify, because there's been a lot of talk about votes not counting or being manipulated. The system is rigged, and that's what we're talking about. I mean, you can go to the polls. They do actually count your vote, but because the system is rigged.
Do they count your vote?
Well, oh, wait, do you know something?
Well, I don't. Just YouTube. YouTube, the Senate committee hearing by Diebold saying he could actually reflect the voting by 2% either way. Just Google it.
All right.
Senate opening. And again, I'm not here to hammer. I was part of this. I gave everything I got.
Yeah.
I believe eventually there will be overflow voting eventually, because I think we got to change the system voting wise. I believe it.
Yeah.
But our enemy is really good at what they do. Okay.
Yes.
They're really,
Yes, they
really
are.
good. And the enemy is progressives, collectivists. And they are really good at again, I think there's a lady out there right now that already announced when they say there's no credible opponent against Tom. I think there's a lady, I don't know, Sandy something or other, but I read about her. Her husband is a solar lobbyist. Well, so's Tom.
In fact, the Republicans in the state legislature protected the solar
That's what
industry.
happened in my district.
Yeah.
Nelson Dollar said at an open thing, he goes, we got to support our supporters who are in the lobbyist field. The next election cycle, he got his butt kicked.
See, that leads me to this perspective, because I think it's true of a lot of people. And it was a call that I heard, and it was a woman who said, like 20, 30 years ago, I watched politics. The Republicans would win, the Democrats would win, back and forth. But I generally got the feeling that they both cared and wanted to do what was best for the country. It was just their turn to take control, maybe a little different road down the path. Today, it's much different in a lot of ways. But was that ever true?
No, that's
I think was there really a good for the country kind of?
Okay. Our engineer was talking about, our producer was talking about how this was engineered. And I want to go through, we'll get there a roundabout way, but at the beginning, we have this great Constitution. Well, I don't agree. I think the first one was better.
Right.
The Articles of Confederation.
Mm-hmm.
It won a war. To pass a law had to be unanimous. No power to tax, no executive, and no Supreme Court. Wow. It was the true embodiment of our Declaration of Independence. Dickinson wrote the first draft of the Articles, and Sam Adams said, "What are you doing?" And if you read it, the first draft of the Articles of Confederation is almost identical to our Constitution today. So the big government federalists were already there. Hamilton wanted his bank. He wanted Isaac Roosevelt to run the New York Bank. Just read the names. So when you look at that, okay. But you had the normal schmo, you and I, were much more read. The Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist Papers were written to convince New York individuals to support or not to support this new Constitution. They're actually written at today's 23rd grade level.
Oh, well, no one would read it today.
Okay, and that's on purpose. We talked about before, Bill, because the education system.
I bet they were written in cursive too.
Cursive print.
We don't even teach that anymore.
So, Bill, so the answer is there was always, and then Madison kept notes of the convention. And this is those who want an Article 5 convention. Those people who want that. Listen to the first. How many times in American history has there been an Article 5 convention? Never under this Constitution.
All right. So, Doctor, wait a second. Could you tell us a little bit more about this Article 5? What's that all about?
Okay. This is great, Bill. The way the Constitution is supposed to be amended is Article 5. Two ways to do it. One is the amendment process. Congressmen can write an amendment. Senators can, or the people of the states can. You just need 3/4 of the states. And each amendment, once it's passed by 3/4 of the state and then passed by 2/3, 2/3 of Congress, then either one of those places so that the people could override Congress otherwise,
right.
Then that can be an amendment process. We've done that, 17 times.
Right.
But also there's a way that the states themselves can open up another convention and have another constitutional convention. All right?
And that's what we did when we had the Articles of Confederation.
Yes.
And then we opened up the convention and ta-da.
And Madison, the leader to tear up the old Constitution, make the new Constitution, stated clearly in Federalist Paper number 40. He said, okay, we had the rules to actually come here by Congress to amend the Articles of Confederation. Because, but do I really want to amend something and make it not as good? If we scrap the whole thing, we can make it even better.
Oh, my goodness.
So now, understand in that room were and then interesting was Madison became a chameleon, and then later on changed and became a pure anti-federalist. And then later in his life, when he was president, became a big banker, but he's a politician too.
Sure.
But the interesting part was, just think about that. Now we hear, and Mark Levin, who endorsed me for senator twice, love the guy. Brilliant. He thinks we could control it. And I'm not saying he can't. Depends on the personalities in the room. Okay. But understand that in the room, when you read Article 5, Congress will help make the rules. And if the rules change, will we have another person, say a Madison that's a socialist in there, or a Madison who is has more influence, who's maybe a not? Look back at the North Carolina Convention of 71 with our 73 convention. Now you have ad valorem property tax to pay for this 10th plank of communism. I know people hate this when I say this. I was a public school kid. My wife taught public school. My daughter's a public school teacher. It's not that. It's how that's rigged against competition. That's the problem. I think it hurts education. It hurts the vocation of teachers. They should compete like everybody else. So just look at the most current constitution in North Carolina versus our older one. So the question is, do you want that to happen? So Bill, and then Madison was clear and honest about it. He says, I scrapped it and I have another idea.
What you're saying and there is a movement, right? To have a current convention. And they're saying, nah, don't need to worry about it because we'll set the guidelines. We'll say, well, we're going to, whatever, term limits or whatever things that they have on their special list at this convention. But you're saying, none of that matters. It could go as it did with the first one. Start over, tear it up, and start from scratch.
And also, why would we need new amendments, even if it's successful, if they don't follow the ones now?
Amen.
You got progressive
Amen.
Tom Tillis saying, we need practical gun laws. Did he miss the phrase, Congress shall not infringe upon?
Yes, he did. Well, he hasn't read it. I'm quite sure he hasn't read it.
You know,
and that's the thing about it. There was a poll. I don't want to
we'll
get too far off.
No, I'm going to forget the poll for a second. Let's do this. Think about honesty.
Yes.
Tom Tillis went around talking about he graduated from the University of Maryland. He went to night school.
Right.
When he's in his 30s. Great story. It's a great American story. There's nothing wrong with it. But is he feeling secure? Is there something there? I think maybe I would love to debate him one-on-one. I would have loved it.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
But it'll never happen.
Nope, it'll never happen. And that's what we really started the show on, is how the system, controlled by the GOP or the Democratic Party, the Democrats are no better.
Oh, worse, I think.
I think so, too. We were talking about money. And that was the question as we went into the break. You have people who have lots of money who contribute to candidates, and I assume they're party members. And yet it seems that money, which is very important, is guided to the party pick long before we even know who that pick is.
Well, now, the more I look back at 14, how close we got. Again, I'm just Joe Schmo running. I had a great team of people helping us out. We were just trying to tell the truth, right? Just going out there with life, liberty, and property. How close and how scared we got them that they could push this weak candidate to 44%. Now he has unlimited funds. Incumbents went at 93%. Now, that being said, this state is turning. And if you're seeing things change, there's no doubt in my mind, unless there's some strong candidate in the sense of, and it's sad, you need money to market. You need market money to actually give a chance. But again, if that happens, they have the solar energy lady that's going to be in the race to get a percentage, right? And push Tom to 30%. But how many people are going to be passionate enough? He's not running around saying Dan Force is going to ruin the ticket. Right. Okay? Dan's doing his thing. Right. But to hammer Dan's, because when Tom loses and he's a one term to a Democrat, is a system of, well, we didn't get vote support Tom. Well, why would I want to vote for a guy who's broad state exchanges in for Obamacare, toll roads? I can do it over and over and over again. Right, he's a progressive. He's proud of being a progressive. He's proud. We're looking for men and women of character and honor. And the Constitution, I know you're not being nerdy about it, but they pledged their oath to it. So don't you think they should know what it says? The sad part is the true keepers of the Constitution are we the people, according to George Washington, and we've abdicated our role.
Well, and that leads me to this poll, and I just want to bring it up because the poll came out today, and it has to do with individuals who want to fundamentally change government, all right? Because they don't think the system works. You have this professor who feels that the president has too much power and we should rewrite it so that somebody like a Trump will never, ever have the power he has. You have others who are unmarried, have 4 kids, living in a housing unit, and Trump's getting rid of the money, and therefore we have to change the government, our government, and the way we run things because they're not getting their cut. Isn't the whole problem that we did change our government? That we no longer even read the Constitution? Imagine what it would be like today, Doctor, if the government, the federal government, actually followed the Constitution.
Yep.
Imagine what kind of life would that be for us?
I think what would happen, Bill, is I believe entrepreneurship, I believe freedom, I believe charity would grow even more. I believe things like that would occur. But the problem is, Bill, we are a social society. I want to go back how it got to that. Van Buren started the Democratic Party in the primaries. He motivated the party system after getting Jackson elected. He became president, had the primary system so they could actually regulate who's going to run for office. You know, the great Tanya Hall in New York and how when I say great, the great power it had. But Bill, there's a phenomenal book written by a progressive named Carol Quigley, Tragedy and Hope. Tragedy and Hope. He was Bill Clinton's mentor, but at 66 he wrote a book about the Anglo-American axis of power. It goes back to the round table of Milner in the 1890s to promote first the Boer War in South Africa, and how to use influence of the Anglo-American power, the banking system, bottom line. And on that team were people of the Labor Party and the Tory Party. They didn't care who they were. Right. They controlled both parties. And he goes through this whole book saying, dudes, it's done. We're in control. We make it look like something's happening on November, but we already have it. And again, this is Carol Quigley, Harvard, Georgetown professor, progressive, writes the truth out, phenomenal historian. And I've read the book, and it just tells you the facts. It's like how we got here. They talk about these rich men, the ones that control the banking, control trade, and they want to keep that going.
They have their own self-interest. It has nothing to do with the greater population of the country.
In fact, we talked about the progressive movement based upon eugenics against their actually philosophy based upon Darwinism. They're the superior race. It's over and over and over again. Look what they've done to Africa. Look what they've done around the world. So, Bill.
Can I ask you something? And you don't have to answer it, although you always do. Were you ever in a room like that where someone told you, especially when you were thinking about running, where they said, no, don't do it because this time we're going to let this person win, or this time we're going to allow this person to win, or that Democrat's going to win this time, and the next time it'll be the Republicans' turn, anything like that?
Was I ever in the room like that?
Yeah.
I was in a room that said, you know, if you help us, we'll make sure that we can win the election next time in a different race.
Okay. It's very similar.
Yeah, same, sir. The thing about it, though, Bill, is what's interesting, again, is that's why it bothers me completely with the word credible. You hear the word credible. Who's judging this, right? Who's judging this? You have these groups, they judge it. My question is FreedomWorks credible? Let's look at their voting record. Let's look at their things. And the thing is, if they did not say they believed in the Constitution, it'd be irrelevant. If they say they did not believe, with a Club for Growth, that they believe in true free markets, it'd be irrelevant. But they say they do. Mm-hmm. And they pick parts of NAFTA, part of GATT. Those aren't free trade, Bill.
No, they're not.
Free trade is Bill invents a widget and wants to sell it on the market in the world or in his neighborhood. And with the internet, we can do that now. But you always need the government. Trade is not like when you say American trade deficit is X, Y, or Z. That's a fallacy number. It's irrelevant. Because these multinational companies are using they're using the government's sovereignty to enrich themselves and then destroy the sovereignty of these countries. I brought it up before, but the 76 movie Rollerball, governments were gone, multinationals ran it, and they had the escapism of Rollerball. They got to the point where this played till we die because they had to keep people, entertained on this box.
Right.
It's happening today.
Sure.
So the product of the individual we have today, society they have today is the exact society those people want. And how do you know it? Read the CFR documents. Read the Carnegie Endowment Foundation papers of 1919. Read them. Carol Quigley put it all together and said, it's too late. We've won. Love you. And we just say, oh, no, it can't be. We can't be. Now, 5 media companies control 98% of media.
It seems pretty evident. I mean, we have been indoctrinated into believing that the government is the answer, right? People who are absolutely qualified to, for instance, render health care, right? Any kind of health care, which would be viewed as competition, need to get an approval from either the state or federal government. The government controls it. It's a monopoly. It's kind of like a mafia.
No, not kind of mafia.
And now yes, I mean, better than the mafia. I mean, they have that kind of tight control, but the people are happy. In fact, despite the monopoly the government has created and the costs rising through the roof, they go to government, and the Republicans are there as well, to offer whatever they're going to offer in order to continue to keep control. So, but they also have families. Are they so wealthy, so rich, so elite that they are exempt from all of this?
I believe so. I mean, Senator Burr's net income, net worth increased tenfold in 8 years, making $170,000 a year. He supported the bill for inside trading is okay for them. So the answer is, yeah, they rigged the system, Bill. And that's the sad part about this is, when I ran against Burr, I think we lost by 12. He destroyed me, but I was incredible to debate him. I was the only guy, I was not credible.
Right.
But yet 2 short years earlier, I was kicking Tillis's rear end in a debate.
Yeah.
So
they use that word credible in order to destroy the personality.
Belittle you. I mean, I'm a pelvic surgeon. I understand risk. I understand benefit. I deal with life and death every day.
Right.
You guys don't. Right. You guys inhibit us from doing our life properly.
Right.
The enemy is the state. The battle is really clear. It is the state versus the individual. That's all this is about from day one. And I question, who came first, government or society? Society came first. Mm-hmm. And when you look for, I'm a believer, you look at Romans 13, 1-4, the actual who draws a sword is not government. That word was changed in the King James Version. It's the head of the household. The head of the household has the power. And again, you don't want to fight. If the rules are the rules, that's fine. But if a government is thievery, if they're the ones stealing, if they're the one, then there's a mob. They don't have no authority. Ask Ron Paul, why do we pay income taxes? Because they have the guns.
Yeah, well, that's so true.
So that's the power. So Mike, again, we talk about this all the time. Where in the Constitution gives them power to have your bank account information? Where in the Constitution gives them the right to literally spy on us with our phones and our cameras 24/7? There's a company out now, NEC, that I was watching some golf tournament they were sponsoring. We're driving the future. Look at our facial recognition, so it's easy to go to the airport. Dudes, shouldn't that scare the crud out of you?
Well, it should, right? It should. Well, we had a big day on Wednesday, May 1st, May Day. That's a big red day. It's Communist Day.
Communist Day, the teachers picked, huh?
It's Commie Day. And evidently the educators of the state of North Carolina decided to turn out and enforce. I don't know, thousands of teachers and their supporters came out for what they always do, looking for more money. But it always comes back to this. Why are we so complicit in allowing the government to take everything from us? I don't think we're smart enough to do anything but what's your thoughts on that? I mean, I know your wife's a teacher. I have family members that are teachers and that, but quite honestly, I don't think we have the cream of the crop.
Bring my wife here, and she'd tell you about what she thought.
I've talked to teachers.
Again, my wife was hilarious when she said they picked May Day. I mean, what a day,
I mean, well, yes.
Okay, and then interesting is, again, the 10th plank of communism is government-controlled schools. And again, if I ever run for office, I know this tape will come back. I understand. I don't care. I've written papers in education, written papers in Common Core. I don't care. I love education. I love it so much. I want the government out of it. You know what I mean? I love it so much.
Do you realize there was a conversation I was having with someone who believes wholeheartedly it isn't the poor teachers or the education system, but rather our society has done a poor job at feeding, and that we have homeless and we have parents that aren't doing their job with their kids. Doesn't take into account that 7 out of 10 can't read. Right? We don't have that many homeless. So, again, they don't know what the root cause of our education problem is.
I do. Read the Carnegie. So do you. Read the Carnegie Endowment Foundation of 1919. They made a plan. Charter schools and what's the schools? No race stuff. All these programs come back. What do you mean charter schools? No, it's still government controlled. School choices. You get 3 vegetables: broccoli, carrots, and peas. I don't want those. I want Brussels sprout. No. That's not school choice. Right. See, I don't want to go to the government ask for anything. I love a government to do its functions. At the state level, nice roads, pay for taxes for state for good roads. Beautiful. That's for commerce. That's fantastic. Helps the society.
Right.
Clean water, more like a local city area keeps it better than that. And we decide, and they don't put drugs in there. Fluoride is a drug. Okay, only 8 countries put fluoride in the water. But we have to decide these things as society in the sense of individuals. But Bill, what I'm saying is there are certain, they're called police powers to make the community a little safer in that respect. A police force, a family. We pay for those.
Sure.
I got that.
Yes.
The federal level, the more centralized a larger government is, the more the individual's a number. That's what we live at. You are your social security number. You are your number. You are your driver's license number. The antithesis of this. Again, so the federal government, I love our federal government to do its functions. Mm-hmm. How about do one? Close the dang borders. Okay?
Yes.
All right?
Well, that doesn't seem to be happening. And it'd be a much smaller government, wouldn't it?
Oh, my God.
It wouldn't be the big jobs program that it is right now. But you had all these educators out on the road using kids as they usually do at this time of the year when it's time to get more money. But I read articles today where they want to take down Jefferson's statue. They want to take down George Washington's mural because it is somehow offensive and or violent towards some certain students. But this all comes from this progressive education system, does it not?
This happened in Mao's China, the Great Revolution. This happened in Hitler's Germany.
Explain. What do you mean?
They went in there and cut the past away. By cutting the past away, they could remold the future. Don't forget, Mao killed 120 million people that knew the past. Stalin killed 80 million people that knew the past. Because if you know the past, you have an idea to guide through the future. All right. So understand these great reformations is the same thing. And what they want to do is eliminate these, again, a progressive movement. Wilson and Roosevelt, use them two together, the Republican.
Democrat. Yeah.
They hated Washington. They hated Jefferson. In fact, today they teach the MIAC report of 2005 under Bush actually said, when they talk about terrorism, that the original founders, Washington and Jefferson, their names are actually said, are the original terrorists.
Yes,
they revolted against this government.
Take on that, yes.
The government is the enemy. In the story. Now, again, I'm going to end with this. I'm going to end with the quote. This is what I want to end with. Hey, Greg, what's your definition of a government? Let's go back to a pretty cool one. The Declaration of Independence. First paragraph. When in human events, what happens? The things that's so bad, we got to change our government. Cool. So what is a legitimate government? We take these we understand we're endowed by our Creator. Self-evident. That we're endowed by them with inalienable rights, meaning they come from the Creator, not from a government. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Very next sentence is the whole crux of why I risk everything I have to protect those rights. Which rights? Bill's inalienable rights. A government instituted amongst Bill, Mary, Sam, to just powers from us, the consent of the governed. That's legitimate government. A legitimate government, well, we have these rules. If anybody infringes on Bill's life, liberty, or property, the government says no. That's it. But our enemy on life, we have there's this beautiful rabbi spoke. My wife gave me this Facebook link today, saying you say you want it because they don't want vaccinations in the Hasidic population. They don't believe in it. They don't want to do it,
right.
And they have no death rates from measles. So you say you want to protect our children, right? You want to protect our children, but yet you believe if a baby is born, is alive, you want to kill it. He ripped into New York Assembly. So that being said. So the bottom line, Bill, is this, is we need a passionate individuals to become passionate groups that articulate what we believe in. We believe in the individual. That's what this is about. When you hear collective, understand you're a number and they're above you. That's all this is. So the question is, do I believe an election can win? I do. But it'll be overwhelming people, not these fake groups that now will elect the give money to his program. We have a guy, the 3rd district, Walter Jones's district will now be run by a progressive Republican or a Democrat.
Unbelievable.
Period. Because we don't know the truth.
Well, try to get it out to you each and every Sunday. You're looking for a passionate guy. I don't know. There's hope out there. There is. I know. By the way, Your American Experiment is brought to you by the Youth Institute. Wonderful place, Dr. Greg Brannon's place. It's bioidentical hormone replacement therapy and so much more. But if you're an individual like myself, especially as you get older, you tend to lose a lot of things, including the reproduction of hormones. And quite honestly, a lot of it is due to our environment, PVC piping and things like that. But it impacts your whole life on so many different levels. The simplest way to put it is if you want to feel 20 years younger, you really, really can. It's just not a slogan. And I really urge you to go to the website and get in and see Dr. Brannon, have a consult and get your questions answered and your concerns addressed. And I promise you, you will feel 20 years younger. And it's so safe. And I don't know where I'd be today without it. So go to youthinstitutebhrt.com, youthinstitutebhrt.com. Do it today. Dr. Brannon, as always, my friend, thanks for the passion. Thanks for what you've done for us.
Thank you, Bill, for everything. And I've ruined my chances to win ever again, but thank you.
I don't think so. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.